Football presented by BKCW. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Jerry Hamilton and Jeff Howe this week, who's filling in for Bobby Burton, the shaded Jerry Hamilton.
Hey, we hung on 68-64 in Starkville, man. I was close to having to pull these glasses off, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. Somebody said it in the chat. Good to see Shea Holly hit 4 or 6 from 3 last night. Texas needs her to shoot the ball at the clip she did in years prior. She is not that. It was good for her to see the ball go through the hoop late in the season. She has been a 38% three-point shooter the last 2 years. This year was in the high 20s before that 4 or 6 game. She's a key. She's got to make some shots for Texas in the NCAA tournament, and it was good to see her go 4 or 6 from 3 last night. And we'll get into that later on, but the shades remain, Jeff Howe. The shades remain.
That's the important thing.
Hey, Jeff, what
here we go.
What were your thoughts on this cover last year when you saw it?
One of these things is not like the other.
Exactly.
All right, well, we got a loaded show today, a lot to talk about. Obviously, get your questions in. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. We know we love to see that as well. But first, guys, we're going to start with a little draft/combine talk here. And Quinn Ewers met with the media this morning, and we got a couple of clips. And I am going to start with this one, and then we'll talk about it.
Quinn, when did the oblique officially occur, and how many games would you say you were fully healthy for this past season?
Yeah, so the oblique, it started popping up on me the Monday after we played in Michigan, and just kind of thought it was a little tweak. And then throughout practice, kind of got worse and worse and worse. And then obviously it kind of just popped against UTSA. And I'd probably say I played 2 games, maybe 3 games healthy, counting the first 2, and then maybe 1 in between the ankle and the oblique.
Was it a full tear? Was it a partial tear?
They labeled it as a sprain, but it didn't feel like just a sprain.
So there you go from our own CJ Vogel. But y'all heard it, guys. It was a long, unhealthy season for Quinn.
Yeah, look, and that's what we talked about yesterday with Quinn is the one thing that I feel like at Texas that the fan base never got to see is Quinn healthy for an entire season, Jeff. And that dates back to his junior year in high school when he had the hernia injury and then maybe had the cracked rib in the state championship game, but returned from the hernia injury to help Southlake get to a state championship game. And kudos to him for that. I think some people would have sat out and got ready for senior year. Obviously, then his senior year ended up being at Ohio State, which was his only healthy year because it's the year he didn't play. But I think that's the one thing with Quinn is he's so talented, and I think he's going to tear it up here. I think he's going to throw it exceptionally well. And then at the Pro Day, March 26th. But Texas fans never really got to see a fully healthy season from Quinn. And I think what he dangled that carrot against Alabama and Austin at a really high. Thanks, Colt Monroe, for returning to the Super Chats. That's great news. That's great news for Blake. And Jeff, that he dangled the carrot of what he could be early on against Alabama before that injury. And he looked like he was going to throw over 400 yards in that game. And since that time, he just never was able to stay healthy for a full season.
Rod and I were talking about this the other day, and I think I found it, but we were trying to figure out, hey, what was the best 4-game stretch of Quinn's career? And you probably go back to the end of the 23 season, the end of his redshirt sophomore year, when he came back from the injury against TCU. Remember that ball he threw to A.D. Mitchell coming off the goal line to pretty much seal that game, where Mitchell had to contort his body and make that catch falling toward the sideline. Yeah, TCU, Iowa State. He wasn't great against Tech, but then he had the Big 12 championship game, and he wasn't by any means he wasn't bad in the Washington game in the Sugar Bowl. But that was probably the best stretch we saw Quinn play. And to your point, Jerry, for Quinn to say that really the tweak came the Monday. So basically the next practice after the Michigan game is when the injury probably initially occurred. That's that to me is even more disheartening because it's like he was probably about to go on one of those runs. It looked like, considering how well he played against Michigan, and we never saw it. So if I'm not putting words in Quinn's mouth, but he said he was healthy for those first 2 games and maybe one before the ankle injury. I'm going to go ahead and guess it was the opener against Colorado State, the Michigan game, and then I'm going to guess it was the Florida game. Was probably with the bye week between Vanderbilt and Florida. I'm guessing that was because he wasn't healthy. He injured his ankle. What was it, like early second quarter against.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the 3 games. That's going to be the tough thing, Jerry, that teams are going to have to look at. It's like, okay, his bad film, is it the injuries? Is it something in his ability to process? Like, you've got to gauge on a sliding scale, like, hey, what percentage are we contributing to the injury? What percentage are we contributing to maybe there's something deficient in this game? That's not going to be an easy eval for coaches and GMs.
No, and that's why I think he's going to be it's going to be quite the conundrum for NFL people, because there's a couple of things that you have to unpack. And again, I think he's going to perform really well throwing on air at the combine and on his pro day. Really, really well. We saw it last year, Jeff, all of us that were there. But what he's going to have to overcome with the NFL scouts is Sark having to pull him against Georgia. And that wasn't injury related. In the biggest game, arguably, of the season, or with the most expectations on a game in the season before the playoff, Sark literally looked at him and said, I got to make a change. That's a hard thing to overcome when these guys really start digging in. It's one thing in the NFL, right? But as a guy that was projected to be a top 15 potential pick before the season, a coach having to pull his quarterback against Georgia, that's going to be tough. And that's where there's going to be so much indecision on him. Is the play is not the play, whether it's injury related or not, is not going to match what they see in person. So, and then you get to that Georgia game, and they're going to ask Sark some tough questions about that. That's the way this stuff goes. Yeah. They're looking for warts. Tony Hills just said it on Hump Day with Hills Wednesday. He said they went and talked to my elementary teacher. So these guys, with the amount of money they're investing into these players, they are going to dig up everything. They're looking for warts. They're looking for a reason not to pick a guy as much as they are to pick a guy. Yeah. And that's going to be the thing he's going to have to overcome in this process. I don't think it's the injury. I think it's what happened against Georgia. Yeah. And I'm not being mean. This is just the process. That's what they're going to look at, and they're going to ask Sark questions there. And that's what they're going to be looking at, because I think he's going to tear it up on air. I really do. I think he throws it exceptionally well in those scenarios, and he always has since the first time I saw him as a sophomore in high school. I was there for a walkthrough practice at South Lake Carroll a day before a game, and the ball never hit the ground. It never was outside the catch radius for an hour and a half. I mean, it was just so impressive to watch. So he's always really ascended and performed really well in those scenarios. I expect nothing less for him at the combine.
I think part of what Georgia did, and look, I said going into the Georgia game, hey, you've got Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, and Will Muschamp putting together a game plan. It's going to be an elite game plan, and it was. And one of the things Georgia did really well, take away his first read, because a lot of Sark's offense with Quinn, and I think this is one of the things we'll see different with Arch running it compared to Quinn. Quinn thrives in that RPO game, especially when that first read is open. If you look at Rod and I broke this down on Football Theory, the most explosive plays Texas had this year, Jerry, it was stuff where it was the glances, the skinny post, stuff where more than likely it's going to be a tag off of an RPO. And that's where Quinn was really good. But if you took away the first read, especially with the speed and the physicality and explosiveness that Georgia defense played with, it seemed like once they hit that corner blitz and knocked the ball out of his hands early in that game, it happens to every quarterback at some point. He got rattled at that point, and that's when Sark needed to calm him down. So I think I'm with you, in addition to the injuries, and I think the injuries is going to be, hey, are you taking care of your body? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating right? They're going to want to know all of that stuff, Going to check with the training staff to see, hey, what was his work ethic like aside from the assigned stuff he was required to do. Probably check with people in the tank. Say, hey, what is this guy eating on a daily basis? Is he putting junk in his body? Is he trying to eat right? So in addition to all of that, they're probably going to be pretty rough with him on the Georgia game and be like, hey, we want to know what you saw. Like when you do start doing whiteboard stuff, what'd you see on this corner blitz? What were you looking at? Where was your second read? Where were you supposed to go with the ball? So that's going to be the tough thing, Jerry. And you and I, you and I talked about this a long time ago when I first started. The one thing that I think people miss, and it's really hard to judge, a quarterback's ability to process. And is it, Quinn being a primary first read guy? Is it just that was the way the offense was designed? Is it a problem processing? I'm not saying it is, but he's going to get hit over the head with that stuff over the next few days.
Yeah, no, that's the draft process. And look, where the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I think the NFL, again, they're going to have all this go back and forth on Quinn, is when things break down, is he a playmaker? Is he a playmaker? Or do we have to have perfect pocket, scheme it perfectly for him? That I think that's going to be a big question that the NFL scouts are going to also talk about with him. And look, again, he's going to tear it up at the combine. I will be shocked if he doesn't have a tremendous day throwing the football. That would really surprise me. I think he'll come tear it up at the pro day as well. So we shall see. But obviously, we had news from yesterday as well, Blake. And by the way, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, all those guys meeting with the media. CJ remains up at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. He'll be there through Saturday. We have reports every day, video on Texas football from all the guys that met with the media yesterday. I think it was 24 minutes of video from Gunnar Helm and Makuba and Jahdae Barron yesterday, as well as the Rutgers corner that is up at the Combine speaking on Mark Orfe. Orfe's about to have a corner drafted at Rutgers 3 years in a row, which is pretty dang good for a young coach.
Definitely. All right, Jerry, before we move on here and a lot more to talk about, tell everybody about BKCW.
Yeah, I definitely can do that, guys. BKCW is a great sponsor of On Texas Football. Today's show is brought to you by BKCW Insurance. BKCW takes your business out of the insurance trap by providing you actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. Operating out of their headquarters in Austin, Texas, and owned by a University of Texas graduate, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute it, and monitor your situation throughout the year so that you can lower your insurance costs and effectively manage your company's risk and employee benefits. BKCW has risk consultants that specialize in many different industries, from construction and transportation companies to nonprofits and school districts. So you'll get matched up with somebody who knows your risks and can help you escape that insurance trap. Nobody wants to be in that. Get started with a free risk assessment at bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com to get started and get the support you deserve.
And going back to Quinn for just a moment here, guys, one other clip that I wanted to play. We heard before he declared, a lot of transfer rumors, and you saw it all over social media, especially. Well, he addressed that this morning as well.
Yeah, no, it was never a thought for me. Just because, like I said earlier, I wanted to leave my legacy at Texas, and I don't want to disrupt anything that I did at Texas to be flipped or turned in any other way. I just wanted to be remembered in college at Texas.
So there you
go. Bobby shot this down. This is like some of the crap with the Arch Manning transfer rumors, just the clickbait. Quinn was never going to another college. He was going pro all season long. That was the plan. There was never a thought to go to another school. Even though he didn't have the season maybe that he wanted, he was always going to go pro after this year. That's been the plan. The plan was executed, and now here he is at the NFL Combine. That guy grew up a big Texas fan, and he wasn't going to leave Texas and play anywhere else.
But what about the $9 million offer, Jerry, or whatever?
I mean,
that's rage bait, dog. Forget clickbait. That's just rage bait.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
No, look, man, people can say what they want about Quinn. If you look statistically, he's going to be, he leaves one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks in school history. If I'm doing a power ranking, he's in my top 5. Just the way I would rank the top quarterbacks in school history. But, you can't question Quinn about a couple of things. One, his love for Texas. I mean, Quinn Ewers wanted to play for Texas. It wasn't about being at Texas. He wanted to play for Texas. And that's a difference. And Jerry, I've said it before, I'll say it again, sometimes to his detriment, his toughness. That Oklahoma State game, his redshirt freshman year, I mean, slammed his finger in a car door, or if I forget what the specifics were, but that was the 19 for 49 game where he wasn't good and he's throwing it to Xavier Worthy with one hand. I mean, he shouldn't even been on the field, if we're being honest. But you cannot question the guy's toughness. You would have had to – an amputation is the only way he was coming off the field to not play quarterback for the Longhorns.
And look, at the end of the day, he's polarizing, right? And we get it. And I just try to be real about my opinions and my thoughts. But at the end of the day, he leaves Texas, having been the quarterback of back-to-back college football playoff teams. And he does leave a legacy at Texas. And I'm really happy for Quinn. Quinn's a great dude, man. Anybody that covered him knows that. He's always real with you. I mean, he's not a guy that's jumping around on social media outside of NIL. He's not one that is going to give you these quotes in interviews necessarily, but whenever you talked with him, you knew it was a real conversation at the same time. And I always appreciated that with Quinn. And look, he was the quarterback of back-to-back playoff teams at Texas. That leaves a legacy at Texas. And it was always going to be tough for Quinn to maybe play up to, because of the high school ranking, play up to the expectations. I mean, he's one of those guys that came out of high school with that you literally would have had to go number 1 overall in the NFL draft to live up to the expectations of a fan base, whether that would have been at Ohio State or Texas.
If you go back, Jerry, to 1990, there's been, before Quinn, and he's the 5th, there's 5 Texas quarterbacks that have quarterbacked Texas to a conference championship. Peter Gardere, James Brown, Vince Young, Colt McCoy, and Quinn Ewers. Those are the 5 that did it. And there's some damn good quarterbacks that didn't.
Yeah.
Sam Ehlinger didn't. Chris Sims didn't. Some really freaking good Major Applewhite didn't. Some really good quarterbacks that didn't get over that threshold. I was laughing when you were talking about Quinn in an interview. Quinn will suffer fools. Some guys won't suffer fools. He will. Like, if you ask Quinn a dumb question, you may get a 6-word answer, but you won't get angry, Quinn, chastising you or anything. But he'll let you know without making you feel stupid that you asked a dumb question. Like, I felt so bad for him. There was a couple games, post game, where the first question is something about Arch. Like his first question for bowl availability is something about Arch, and it's like, just we can have Arch Man. I said this at my previous employer, Jerry, and some people didn't like it, but it's the way I feel. You can have Arch Manning content, good Arch Manning content, without inventing stuff or forcing something.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, one other combine note here. Barryn Sorrell, 88 is great.
66 was great yesterday.
That's right. But check out these numbers, guys. He ran a 4.68 40 there. He was third among defensive linemen in the shuttle and second in the cone drill.
And the L cone, that's a good L cone for Barryn Sorrell. That's the ultimate change of direction drill in football for these guys, whether it's at an Under Armour combine, an NFL combine moving forward for these guys. Look, 32.5-inch arms, 9.25-inch hands. That's going to be, probably lower into the pack of guys here. 10-1 broad, 34-volt of vert. He had a solid day. He didn't do anything to hurt, in my estimation. He didn't do anything to hurt himself yesterday in his NFL draft stock. I think the 7.08 L cone is really good for him.
That's the key, Jerry. Didn't do anything to just, cause his stock to tank. And I see Stephen Henderson said, they're doing the bench today. 25 reps is what I'm seeing. Thank you, Stephen, for putting that in the chat. 25 reps for Barryn Sorrell on the bench. So, like you said, Jerry, solid combine. That's exactly what he needed to have. I was surprised seeing some, 7-round mocks or some top prospect lists that didn't have him in there. somebody's going to draft Barryn Sorrell probably on day 3 of this draft and draft a guy that's going to make their roster and be a pretty solid hand in the NFL. He just, to me, he worked too hard and was too productive of a player at Texas to not be on an NFL roster.
No, and the other thing with him is he's gonna do great in the interview process. Then those people are going to go back and talk to PK, Sark, whoever, and they're going to talk about how great of a leader he was, how he put everything into maximizing his ability on and off the field. And those things are really going to matter for him. I really believe that. And I think whether that is a draft slot or a free agent, look, he's going to play in the NFL a long time. I mean, is it going to be a Malcolm Roach situation where could you go late or could you go undrafted free agent? Well, Malcolm Roach ended up undrafted free agent, and Malcolm Roach is he is a very solid guy in the NFL and will play 10 years in the NFL if he stays healthy enough. And, what did Malcolm Roach have that maybe cost him? Shorter arms, maybe not quite as explosive as people wanted at his position. But there's some similarities there. But I think Barryn Sorrell will get across the finish line as a draft pick. I could be wrong. This stuff is, man, it goes back and forth. Somebody asked about Alfred Collins. 8-foot broad jump wasn't great for him.
No.
Yeah, he needs to have a good pro day in Austin from a testing perspective. The tape is good this year. Maybe not, didn't, in what he did take part in yesterday, probably wasn't where people wanted it to be.
Jerry, you mentioned Malcolm Roach. I think that's a great reminder for the day 3 guys, especially pretty much from your 6th, 7th rounders and your priority free agents. All it takes is one team or one coach to fall in love with you, and you can play a long time in the NFL. 2 guys on that Broncos roster right now, Malcolm Roach and Lil Jordan Humphrey. Sean Payton loved both those guys. Signed them as undrafted free agents in New Orleans. They made that roster, and he gets the Broncos job, and as soon as he can, gets both of those guys with him in Denver. And both those guys are still cashing checks and playing in the league. So that's all it takes. All it takes is one coach, one GM, one organization to be like, no, that guy's our kind of guy. And with Barryn Sorrell, what's interesting about this draft, Jerry, I know we got a lot to cover this morning, but you look at that 2021 recruiting class, that's really kind of it's bizarro Texas from what kind of everybody perceives Texas to be. Oh, you guys get, 4 and 5 star guys, and you guys get all these top 250 type kids. Well, yes and no. I mean, we can go break recruiting classes down, but you look at Jonathan Brooks, Gunnar Helm, Barryn Sorrell, Hayden Connor, so many just kind of self-made guys. Guys that when you looked at him, you're like, okay, maybe he's a rotational guy. Maybe he gets processed out once the new coach gets some of his guys in. No, those guys were multiple year starters. Jonathan Brooks was a 2nd-round pick, and I don't know if I'm kind of with you, Jerry, where you are, Barryn Sorrell. It's kind of where I'm at on Hayden Connor. Whether he gets drafted or not, I just think there's going to be a couple teams that are like, you know what? The interview was great. He's productive for many years at Texas as a starter. We're just going to get him in camp and see if he makes our roster. And if in worst case, we put him on the P squad and maybe at some point elevate him. I think there's going to be a few guys in this Texas class that are those late day 3 priority free agent guys that end up making rosters.
All right, so we're going to shift to an ESPN article, Blake, because this is great for the chat. This is going to be fun for you guys. But Blake, I'll let you get into that, and then it's going to be a lot of fun for the chat. The chat's going to have a lot of answers to these 3 questions.
Definitely, and we'll kind of visit them throughout the show as well. So ESPN asked a team of writers, I think it was like 5 or 6 of their writers, a bunch of various questions. The first question, and I'm going to put it up here, maybe my mouse will cooperate, is which team has the most to prove?
And so you're for which team in college football has the most to prove to the chat out there? So
other than Penn State,
people said Penn State, Alabama, and Oregon. Oh, Joe Z's Oregon Ducks, baby. You got a lot to prove after getting.
And there's a Florida State answer as well. Florida State, USC.
Lincoln Riley, USC. Yep. That one's
Oregon. Right. Ryan McGee says Oregon, and then Colorado is another. Somebody
had to get their Dion clicks in there. I mean, look, we're really coming down because now not LSU, because the next question is which coach has the most to prove. So we're going to start with which team has the most to prove. So, and then we'll get to what coach has the most to prove. We'll answer the Ryan Niblett questions after this, by the way. So what team has the most to prove this year, Jeff? It's always going to be James Franklin until he gets over the hump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a reality for coaches. It's like in golf, the best player to never win a major, right? I mean, Phil Mickelson was that guy for years until he got over the hump. That's just the name of the game. And so James Franklin, I thought he got over a hurdle this year, a couple of them, winning the 2 college football playoff games. Now is he going to get over? Is he going to climb the mountaintop? So he's going to be the most talked about guy, in team. But then you get to Alabama in year 2 under Kalen DeBoer. I think he's going to have a quarterback that more fits his system this year. So we'll sign the top 3 class. We'll see there. Where's Oregon fall into this with Dan Lanning? Because he's been extremely successful. But when you're the number 1 seed and you go get the brakes beat off of you in a first-round game, then you're going to start climbing that list with James Franklin a little bit, deserved or not. So, Jeff, do you have a thought there?
Well, I see Seth. Thank you for sticking up for me. Jerry was there the day that I fell in love with James Franklin. It was Jerry. Remember that publishers conference where James Franklin was our keynote speaker?
Oh yeah.
And, I was ready to run through a wall, man. And I'm like, this cat wins games at Vanderbilt. Like he can talk me into doing pretty much anything. So I'm an unabashed James Franklin apologist. But man, when you load up, he's probably got the best coordinator tandem in the country. If you really think about it, with Andy Kotelnicki on offense and now Jim Knowles running the defense, got a veteran quarterback with Drew Aller. I'll give you an interesting team though, Jerry, not a coach, but a team. So we're talking about team with the most approved. I'm looking at Clemson because
good one.
You were able to keep some of your guys, especially your interior D linemen that we thought, hey, maybe they're portal guys. You're able to keep some of those guys in-house. You may have the best quarterback in the country with Cade Klubnik and in a very winnable conference. But, we saw last year when they went against Georgia and when they went against Texas, it was pretty clear who had the best athletes and who the better teams were. Can Clemson take a step to where when they play those upper-tier teams, are they more competitive? So other than Penn State, I'm going to say Clemson has the most to prove.
Yeah, so I like that. I like Clemson because there is going to be pressure on them this year to win big again, because last year, like you said, and Dabo's even gone to the portal. He never had to admit he was wrong, but he has proven he knows he was wrong at this point. And some other interesting answers. Florida, Daniel Earp. I like Florida in this conversation because Billy Napier started last year on the hot seat. He survived the hot seat. But now they have to start well this season, else now Billy Napier has different expectations because he's got DJ Lagway, he's got Jaden Ball. He should have Eugene Wilson coming off injury. Did you turn the corner last year? Or are you going to ascend this year? Because if Florida doesn't get off to a good start, then they're going to be right back on Billy Napier. Oklahoma is a great one. And that's probably more in the coach with the most to prove.
Yeah, I would say that's coach.
More the team with the most to prove. I know they kind of go hand in hand, but we're going to leave Venables for coach with the most to prove this year, I think. But Clemson's got tremendous receivers. Brandon Bowersock says Miami. I think that's going to go into coach. All right, so coach, who has the most to prove for the chat? There's Brian Kelly, not dancing, arms crossed, frustrated. It's Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables. Obviously, James Franklin's going to continue to show up.
A lot of people saying Lane Kiffin in the chat.
Lane Kiffin in the chat. I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah. What about Mike Norvell? I mean, people mention Florida State as a team, but I think that's, to me, Jerry, I'm with you. Like where you are, the Brett Venables deal, that's where I am on Florida State and Mike Norvell. I mean, you go from 11-1 to 2 and whatever they were last year. That to me is more of a Mike Norvell problem than a Florida State problem.
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, Brian Kelly and Brent Venables are really, and Lincoln Riley are all under the microscope this year, more so. And it's probably because of the programs they're at, Jeff. I think it's a great point on Norvell. I think FSU fans have given up on that deal, whether it's fair or not.
Yeah.
But Brian Kelly, especially with Texas going into the SEC.
Would you put Hugh Freeze in there, Jerry, in that discussion?
Not yet. I think because he has a better roster this year with Hugh Freeze. If he doesn't ascend to 8 wins this year, then I think we're going to have that conversation for sure next year. But I think Auburn's now got him a better roster going into this year. I'm not sure about their quarterback pick in the portal, though. I'm not sure about that one. But they're going to have a lot better players this year on their 1 through 85. There's Bill Belichick. That's an interesting one because he's, Sam Pittman, Isaiah Stewart. He's definitely on the hot seat there. That's Bill Belichick's interesting, Jeff, because he's kind of come in with unrealistic expectations at North Carolina.
Yeah.
He's not going 11-1 and going to the ACC championship game and into the playoffs. But you know what? And I don't think that's the expectation of North Carolina fans. But if Bill Belichick had a 7-5 season at North Carolina, people would say utter failure, horrible hire.
Yeah.
And it's not add water instant championship here. It takes a little time.
Yeah. My guy Bobby Petronic brought up a good one that I thought about. Do you put Marcus Freeman in there maybe? But, if we're talking, somebody mentioned it up here. There's so many really good answers. I'm a Matt Rule guy. Kind of like I'm a James Franklin guy. I'm an unabashed Matt Rule guy. Typically, Jerry, this is the point. If you look at Matt Rule, of his tenure at Temple and at Baylor, this is the season where you really make that ascent. His Temple team did it and his Baylor team did it. I'm not saying they got to go win the Big Ten or get into the playoff, but you got to be better than 6-6, 7-5 if you're Matt Rule this year.
Yeah, with what you're getting paid and the expectations. Yeah,
and you're and Dylan Raiola in year 2 with an improved offense. You've added some guys from the portal. Yeah, you got to be better than 6 or 7 wins. Somebody
threw out a really good one, and I didn't even think about this one until it came up in the chat. Sharon Moore at Michigan, because now he's got NIL. He's got Larry Ellison's wife and the NIL behind him, right? So he's going to have to do it with a freshman quarterback.
But that's why I'm still a year away from putting Sharon Moore in that group.
Yeah.
I want to see what Michigan does this year. If they're still like 6-7 wins this year, then 2026 becomes the year where it's like, all right, you better be 9+.
All right, Juju Juice, this is for you. Because he's like copying everyone but Texas football. Which quarterback has the most to prove this year in college football?
I mean, other than Arch?
No, I mean, look, it starts. Most of the answers are Arch. There's a couple others, Carson Beck and Drew Allar. Those are the 3 guys that everybody said. And look, Miller Moss at Louisville, come on.
I respect Andrew Adelson for trying to make the ACC relevant there.
To go a different direction. And Nico at Tennessee, that's a 4th good one now.
Yeah.
That's the guy that some people ranked ahead of Arch Manning, which in the NFL, that's a fireable offense, by the way. But, I mean, GMs got fired over that stuff, right? But we're not going to do that in the high school recruiting space, as dumb as it was. All right, so you have Arch, who's going to get more coverage than anybody, who's going to be scrutinized more than anybody ever in the history of college football this year. I truly believe that. Then you have Drew Allar because of the way it ended for him, and he's a 3rd-year starting quarterback. You have Carson Beck, which I don't know, is he on a scooter to class now because the cars got ripped in Miami? I don't know if people saw that, but his cars got stolen. But he's coming off injury. He's at Miami. I don't know. This thing's coming down to Arch, Drew Allar, and Nico.
I'll give you another one. And somebody mentioned in the chat. Frank mentioned in the chat. What about Sam Leavitt? You're the defending Big 12 champions. No Cam Scatterboo. There's going to be more. It's not just going to be Sam Leavitt driving the bus and making a play here or there. If Arizona State wants to get back to the playoff and win the Big 12, he's going to have to carry more of the load.
Yeah. I'll tell you another one, Mateer at OU, because
for sure. See, I think Mateer and Carson Beck for the next question, Jerry, I think they're kind of 1A, 1B for the next question.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And look, so Arch is I think Sam Leavitt is going to be take off and end up being a high NFL draft pick. That's my opinion of Sam Levitt. I think he is going to excel because he's a guy who puts on more, as Rod calls it, armor every year. He came out as a talented, wiry, strong guy, but now he's starting to add that weight and muscle to his frame and that mass to his frame. And I can tell you this by knowing somebody close to that situation, the kid relishes he relishes what you're talking about, Jeff, to be the leader of the program now. Like he is going to another level in his leadership, in his work ethic. Not that he hadn't worked hard before, but he's even pushing it to the nth degree right now in Tempe. So I think he's going to have and he gets Jordan Tyson back off injury.
Yeah.
They have Raleek Brown from USC, who they didn't use much because they had Scatabo as a gadget guy. They got the running back from Navy that transferred in. He's going to have really good pieces around him in the passing game next year at tight end. I think Sam Levitt's going to have a really big year. Mateer's interesting because, boy, he has got the pressure of a fan base on him as a guy transferring in. Now, Arch is going to be interesting because Arch, I mean, look, Arch is if Arch doesn't win SEC championships this year, people are going to say it's a failure nationally.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said it before. He's going to be different. He's going to be like Tiger Woods 06, 09 on the Golf Channel. And I'm not saying comparing him to Tiger Woods, who's one of the greatest athletes of all time. But what I am saying is on the Golf Channel or on social media, every golf swing Tiger Woods made was scrutinized. Every good swing, every bad swing, every putt, every wedge, everything was scrutinized with him. Arch is going to be the same way. There's going to be videos of him on YouTube after every game of the good and the bad. You know it's coming every game. He's going to be scrutinized because it's also clicks, but he's going to be scrutinized, I think, like no player we've seen in college football before.
Yeah.
And I know that comes with the territory, and I don't think that phases him. But I just think that's the reality we're going to be living in. By the way, Isaiah Bond, he said Isaiah Bond says he plans to run sub 4.25 this week.
Yeah, he said he's gonna break Worthy's record, is what he's telling reporters. So.
Jerry, the other thing where I think the Arch hype gets out of control relative to Tiger, and it's crazy to think about this now, but we went through a decade plus where every major, whether it's the Golf Channel, PTI, whoever, it's who you taking, Tiger or the field, and it was almost an insult or you're an idiot if you took the field. Like that's just kind of where Tiger was at that point. Everyone's going to expect Arch to win the Heisman on every throw.
Absolutely.
That to me is, as a fan, to save yourself some, your blood pressure and your longevity and your sanity. You have to understand that at some point he's going to fail, whether it's in a game for a stretch, he's going to struggle. There's going to be ups and downs. Every quarterback at Texas that's been worth their salt has had that point where there's the ebb and flow. Now, the great ones eventually get on that upward trajectory and they don't stop. But Arch, there are going to be times, Jerry, where Arch just isn't clicking. So will the fans and the media, will they be okay understanding, okay, this is just, it doesn't mean it's not the end of the world, but he's got to work through this a little bit. He hit a little bit of a wall. Let's see the kid get over it. That's the expectation I'm going in with. And what I'm interested to watch, the first time it doesn't click the way everybody expects it to click, how is everybody outside going to react? And it's weird because, like you said, I don't worry about how Arch is going to handle that. He's been groomed and bred to handle this, to handle failure. So I don't worry about Arch from that standpoint. I worry about everybody else.
All right, guys, before we move on, Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about one of your favorite products in Gooder.
Yeah, I got to get the shades back on, man. Got to get the shades. Here we go. All right. Why Gooder is the question. I can give you a million reasons, but I can only give you about 10 off this read. Stylish Stunnies starting at only $25 a pair. Lose them in the ocean, no big deal. Go to the car, get your other pair. 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. I got to read it. Lightweight and comfortable. That is very true. 100% polarized. No slip, no bounce. Love these things. From vibrant colors to sleek styles, there are a pair of Gooders for every personality out there, especially the Texas fans. The UT Gooders are money. Designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and more. When do I think you should wear your Gooders? Every time, everywhere. But here's what Gooder says: on a run, playing pickleball, on a hike, going to the beach, all those activities. Bobby's probably got his tennis racket out right now because they're so affordable. You don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. If you need a new pair of sunnies, and it is getting to be that time, we actually had good weather in Houston, Gooder is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/on Texas all caps and use the code on Texas all caps for free shipping. I got to read this: 30-day money back guarantee. Don't need it. 100% satisfaction for sure. Again, that's gooder.com/on Texas and use code on Texas for free shipping.
And after you get those new sunglasses, you might as well go ahead and get a new wallet as well. So meet Ridge Wallet. It's the sleek minimalist wallet that's changing the game. Ridge wallets are extremely thin, yet can securely hold up to 12 cards plus your cash without adding unnecessary bulk. It's made from premium high-performance materials like carbon fiber, titanium, and stainless steel. Ridge wallets are built to last. In fact, they come with a lifetime warranty, meaning this is the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. The best part is they have over 50 colors and styles to pick from, whether you want that sleek black forged carbon fiber, a wallet that maybe features your favorite NFL team, or just one that matches your vibe, they got you covered. And Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create premium everyday carry essentials like key cases, which are phenomenal. I have one. Suitcases and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on every single product. And right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/on-Texas. Just head to ridge.com/on-Texas to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they're going to ask you, where did you hear about them? Please support our show and tell them that On Texas Football sent you.
And if you're wondering why Blake doesn't have his Ridge wallet for the read, it's because Colt has it on the bus sending super chats.
Apparently so, because there's number one.
Yeah.
Here's number two. The bus ride is taking forever.
Yeah.
Number three right here.
Yeah.
And then he caps it off with the fourth. And hopefully that bus has made it at this point. What about Quinn being a top 10 quarterback?
Congrats on your Ridge wallet, Colt.
Colt is on his way to a baseball tournament right now.
Hey, by the way, somebody said we're about to address Ryan Niblett. Somebody said DJ Lagway at quarterback, most pressure. That's actually a good answer. He's got the weight of a fan base on him too now, because he had a really strong freshman season when he was healthy. He brought excitement to the swamp. Now he's got the expectations of University of Florida football and University of Florida on him. And look, these guys aren't really amateurs anymore. They're getting paid millions of dollars. It's going to come with the territory. It's different territory now because people speculate how much you're getting paid to be the hope of the fan base and the university in football. So DJ Lagway's got a lot of pressure on him out of Willis, Texas.
Hey, Jerry, real quick. I just saw Juju Juice post in the chat directed to me. There will be no Arch slander. So Juju Juice, whenever you're in the chat and I'm on the channel, I'll throw Arch into the group. As long as I'm on a show, there will be no Gerard Hurd slander. There will be no Will Muschamp slander, and I'll throw Arch in there as you cannot slander the good name of Will Muschamp, Jerry.
No. By the way, Muschamp said Texas fans should be very, very excited about the hire of Dwayne Akina if you need it. All right,
Ryan Niblett.
Yeah. Okay, Ryan Niblett. So Ryan Niblett moves to defense. CJ Vogel reported that. A couple others have followed up and reported that this spring. And we'll see what that means. I mean, if he's at safety, that's a long road. That's a tough road. Can he be a contributor on special teams as a gunner? And can he help this Texas team impact winning in ways such as that? I think he has the possibility to do that, potentially even in the return game. I think the move to safety, or people are saying star safety. We'll see. We'll see like where his reps are actually at. But it's going to be a battle for him, and we'll see where it goes. Yeah,
Jerry, the point you made there, I want to bring up. You talk about being a gunner. That's an underrated part of this because punt coverage was not ideal last year. And if you're going to get the most out of the punt game, will improve with Jack Bonister. It should. There's no question. It's the reason why you went to why punter was the first thing you got out of the portal for Sark and Jeff Banks. But you got to have gunners. You really appreciated Keelan Robinson and Keaton Crawford, how good of gunners they were. Think back to Michael Dixon, his years at Texas, where Josh Thompson was an outstanding gunner. That's how Josh Thompson got his foot in the door with the NFL, was his work on teams. So I know it doesn't sound like a glamorous role, but great gunners combined with a good punter, those things win you games. Those hidden yards add up.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see for him. I think at defensive back, and I'm not saying he can't be successful. I think it's going to be an uphill battle. Look at the young talent and returning players at both of those positions, wherever he ends up after the spring. That's that it's going to be tough to make a dent there. That's why I look at special teams, return games, some of those things with his speed, utilization of his athleticism that I think are probably going to be a higher percentage of really making an impact winning on this Texas team next year. But safety, nickel, those are going to be steep climbs up the hill there. That's for sure. By the way, somebody asked, what do we think? Somebody asked us, what do we think Jade, Barryn, and Makuba are going to run today? Well, their trainer went on social media, I think, today, Bam, and I think he's thinking 4-4-3, 4-4-1. If Barryn runs that, he's locked into the first round. If Makuba runs anything sub 4-5 today, I think that's a great day for him. What will Gunner run? I don't even really have a guess at Gunner yet. I mean, I don't know. Jeff, I think a low 4.7 would be 4.65 to 4.7 would be really good for him. I mean, I think that'd be really, really good for him.
Yeah,
I think his play speed may be a little better at times.
I think so too. That's the bigger thing for me. If you're his deal is where they might look at his measurables and how not the measurables, but the jumps and the times and everything, and compare it to the tape, and the tape might outshine whatever he tests. So I just think if you're looking for a guy who's pretty close to a 5-tool tight end, probably the closest thing Texas has had to one since David Thomas, you take Gunnar Helm. You're not taking him because of a 40 time or a vertical jump. You're taking him based on what you saw on film.
Barron's going to be so interesting because there's some people think he'll run. So we see Ike in the chat thinking 4.48, 4.52. His trainer thinks he may get hit 4.43, 4.41. I think the thing with Jade that's interesting about him is he's because of his build, he's kind of got the running back legs over time. That way his frame is kind of filled out. He may be a guy that runs a little faster than people think because when you see him, just the build he has, it's not really what a natural corner build is. And I think because of the way he's built, he may look half a step slower than he's actually going to test at. I know that may not make sense, but I think there's something to the way he's built and the way he looks when he runs. If he hits 4.41, he's gonna go top 15 of the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I see what you're saying, Jerry. The same thing used to be said about Vince Young from the standpoint of I never knew what he would run in a 40 because that's more of a true sprint. But he was such a long strider that it never looked like he was running very fast. But you could tell obviously the play speed was there. So there's just some guys, just different body types will kind of fool you with the speed a little bit. But Jade's never one of those guys, Jerry, because he wasn't a return guy. We never really saw him just like, drop the trailer and just, crank out something at full speed. So I have no idea what he's going to run.
And speaking of Jade, we got a super chat from Brandon Huey. Thank you, Brandon. He says, this is for Jade. What a kid. His podium presence is second to none. Made for TV, most versatile defensive back in the draft. Hook 'em, and shout out to 88 as well.
Well, I think this is a great super chat by Brandon because it takes us in a direction. We're talking about testing, bench press numbers, L cones, all this stuff. But what really can be the differentiator for these guys? We talk about how the winning teams and their guys seem to get drafted higher. Well, I think it's with Texas, maybe the best thing Sark's done, other than just the pure winning of games and your win-loss record, you are who your record says you are, right, Bill Parcells, is the guys are very impressive, Jeff and Blake, from a culture standpoint coming out. And if you knock the interviews out of the park, the media sessions out of the park, when these NFL scouting departments go and do their due diligence on you, I think the reviews you get from Steve Sarkisian, the coaching staff, dating all the way back to high school, what a high school coach may say about Jahdae Barryn, those things elevate your draft stock. If these guys are choosing between 2 guys, 3 guys at the same position, and we're in there investing millions of dollars in these guys, man, that can be the difference. You're on a winning team. You are a captain of a leading team. You move positions and won the Thorpe Award. You get glowing reviews from your teammates, from your coaching staff, all the way back to high school, all these things. You handle yourself in the media extremely well. So obviously you can compartmentalize and you can deliver in every single thing a franchise wants you to do. Those guys tend to move up the boards. If it comes down to 2 or 3 guys for that one spot, a lot of times that's the difference.
The high school football aspect, Jerry, is big. We were talking about this on the Winning Drive yesterday. He played at a program that wasn't a winning program at Pflugerville Connolly, and it would have been really easy for him to hop in that Texas high school football transfer portal and go somewhere else. He didn't, though. He stayed true to where he was, and hey, they were not a very good team, but he stuck it out and was a leader for his team. To me, that says a lot about a kid's football character. In this day and age where kids are jumping around and moving schools, he didn't. So that to me says a lot about the kid's football character.
I mean, look, and when we talk about that, Jalen Hurts may be the best person to talk about out of the state of Texas, out of high school football. Like Jalen Hurts, and we were talking about this after they won the Super Bowl. He was at Channelview High School. He played for his dad. Look, his dad was the head coach there, came from Baytown Lee, was on Dick Olin's staff back in the day at Baytown Lee. Jalen Hurts led Channelview to a district championship. That means back in the day, you beat North Shore, Beaumont, Westbrook, all those people to win district. Channelview hasn't done it since. They have some decent players over there. Coach Hurts does a good job. He led a program to a district championship that hadn't seen one since. And then he goes to college. Yes, Tua got him eventually and beat him out. But he continued to go beyond what people thought. He was an unbelievable leader at Alabama. That's why Nick Saban, he won immediately with Nick Saban because of his leadership, his toughness, and his ability to elevate people around him. Eventually, he got beat out by a better thrower of the football when they recruited all those wide receivers at Alabama, and Nick Saban was adapting to the changes in college football. What does Hurts do? He goes to Oklahoma, does the very same thing again, wins over his teammate, wins over his locker room, wins over a head coach. He goes to the NFL. Now he's finally climbed the ladder. He's continued to elevate people around him and continue to prove that the guy is just a winner. And that started back in high school with him. You could date it back to his football, track. I tell the story all the time. I went to a regional track meet to see Austin Deculus because I was ESPN Under Armour at the time, and I was inviting him to the Under Armour game. And Jalen Hurts was throwing the shot put in the regional track meet, and I went up to him and said, "Dude, why are you doing this?" He said, "My team needs points." Period. He wasn't a track guy. He did it for his school, and he ended up throwing almost 50 feet and going to the regionals in the shot. Those guys, man, they just continue to elevate. He stayed at Channelview. His dad didn't try to go somewhere else. He stayed and he won a district title there. So to that point, man, when these NFL people go all the way back and they look through your history, if you have that solid history, that's a difference in a draft as this thing moves along.
We got another super chat here from Jack. Thank you, Jack, as always. He says, we all understand that we will be inexperienced next season. Development will be key. But how will it affect game scheming early on?
Well, here's the question, Jeff. How inexperienced will Texas really be, though? So Trevor Gooseby now, if Trevor Gooseby hadn't got that key playing time late in the season, I think offensive line would have been inexperienced. Now, Cole Hudson's played a lot of football. DJ Campbell's played a lot of football, right? Neto's practiced for 2+ years. We'll see. There's a young guy, Nate Kibble, that's going to challenge people. I'm just telling you, Brandon Baker will be inexperienced. Andre Kojo, the backup, will be inexperienced on the field. Jordan Washington at tight end. Obviously, Trey Wisner is 1,000-yard receiver. Ryan Wingo's not inexperienced. DeAndre Moore's not inexperienced. On defense, there's a lot of experienced players coming back. So I'm not sure how Texas is inexperienced, but it'll be interesting to see.
I think it'll impact you. The main way I think it'll impact you on offense, you mentioned it, Jerry, in the tight end room, you're really inexperienced. I mean, Nick Townsend might be the number 2 guy the minute he steps on campus this summer. So it might impact how much 12 personnel you run early on. So you're going to have a chance. They'll have a chance to figure out, hey, is Parker Livingstone wide receiver 3? Are we going to be more of an 11 personnel offense? Is it going to be more of a 20 personnel offense, a 21 personnel offense, whatever it is? That's the only thing I see, Jerry, is early on it just might change. Sark might not use as much 12 personnel as he's used in the past.
Yeah. On defense, though, look, I don't think Texas is an inexperienced team next year on defense. Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, not inexperienced. Ethan Burke, not inexperienced. Receiver Colton Vosick is health-wise. On the interior, the guys may be new to Texas, but Cole Brevard's not inexperienced. Travis Shaw's not inexperienced. Hero Canoe is not inexperienced players. Even Alex January got snaps. He's a young football player. So Brad Spitz, not inexperienced. Lone Galafau, Anthony Hill, you name it. Ty Anthony Smith is a young football player, but he got reps. You look at the safety position, Jelani McDonald, whether he's nickel safety, Jalen Gilbo, Manny Muhammad, Michael Taft, Derek Williams coming off injury, all those guys. Defensively, it's not going to shock me if Texas isn't as good or better defensively next year because of the pass rush. Now, Kobe Black, the other corner's got that question has to be answered a little bit. But then you also have the spring portal window for the offense, for the team in general. You're more experienced now in special teams going into next year, with the exception of maybe the return game, and we'll see there. But I don't think Texas is ever going to be an inexperienced team. They may be a little young in a couple of spots, but Trevor Goosby getting that playing time late in the season was such a blessing in disguise for this season. We talked about it when it happened, Jeff. I know you weren't with us at the time, but that was one of those blessing in disguise situations where not only does Kyle Flood and Sark know that what they saw with Goosby translated to games, even though he was a young player and he was still on the strength developmental curve that they wanted him on, but he answered the bell. So that gives them a lot of confidence of what they thought he could do. Now they got to see it. And that, more importantly, maybe Trevor got to believe he could do it.
Because
that just motivates him even more going into the next year.
Yeah. Sorry, Jared, didn't mean to cut you off. It's not like he's doing it against, Sam Houston or San Jose State either. I mean, he's playing 70-something snaps against A&M. He's playing the whole game against Georgia, playing the whole Peach Bowl, Yeah. So it's different. And to your point about when you think about Cole Brevard, Travis Shaw, and Hero Canoe, I mean, hey, Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole weren't experienced at Texas, and I know you're talking about a couple of 60-year guys, but they took to it pretty quick. And keep in mind too, both those guys, neither one of those guys was a spring guy last year. Both those guys didn't get to Texas until the summer. So I'm excited about the newcomers at interior D-line. It's just going to be a little different. I mean, we kind of, it's just the unknown because we kind of knew what to expect from Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, at least what the ceilings were. Just don't know with some of these guys.
All right, we got some more questions coming up here in just a second. But first, I'm going to use this opportunity to let everyone know about Factor. And if you're ready to optimize your nutrition this year, then Factor is for you because they have chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life may throw at you. And Factor arrives fresh. It's fully prepared. It's perfect for any active or busy lifestyle. And with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to meet your goals. You can choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. and a lot more. Use Factor to help reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. And man, oh man, is it convenient. That's why I love it. I've used it for quite some time. I can say without a doubt, it comes in clutch every single time. Like I said, 2 minutes, you're ready. You have a great tasting meal. I've never had anything that I didn't like when it comes to Factor meals. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast. Use code Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Be sure to check them out. And Jerry, if you'll be so kind to let us know about BKCW one more
I certainly
time.
can do that. The sponsor, one of the sponsors of today's show. Today's show is being brought to you by BKCW Insurance. BKCW takes your business out of that pesky insurance trap by providing you with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. Who wants that? Operating out of their headquarters in Austin, Texas, and owned by a University of Texas graduate, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute it, and monitor your situation throughout the year so that you can lower your insurance costs and effectively manage your company's risk and employee benefits. BKCW has risk consultants that specialize in many different industries, from construction and transportation companies to nonprofits and school districts. So you'll get matched up with someone who knows your risks and can help you escape, again, that pesky insurance trap. Get started with free risk assessment at bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com to get started and get the support you deserve. All right, we haven't hit recruiting yet. As somebody said, does Factor have a Chick-fil-A meal plan for Jerry? I wish. We need to check on that, Bobby. Stutzman ran a 4.52. Danny Stutzman's a tremendous player. I know he's going to be the hated guy, but credit where credit due. Danny Stutzman's a really good player. Will be a 10-year pro if he stays healthy. Tremendous, really good in pass coverage. Like I was talking to a college assistant about that, how good he was in pass coverage for Oklahoma defense. All right, but speaking of defense, let's get to some recruiting, Blake Monroe.
Yes.
We're up to 36 official visitors now, with Tico Crittenden from Lithonia, Georgia, in the Atlanta area, the 6'4", 310-pound defensive lineman who Kenny Baker's been recruiting for a while. This is big Tico. I don't want to say Teacup Chihuahua or something like that. Tico Crittenden, 6'4", about 310, 315 in that range. Long arms. There you see him there. Out of Lithonia, Georgia, in the Atlanta area, scheduled to officially visit Texas June 13th through 15th. You ready for an SEC bloodbath recruiting and D lineman chat? Here is one of them. Visiting Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas. That's why we say gird up your loins. But this is one of those recruitments. So we also believe it on Texas football that Jamion Winfield from Richardson will visit June 20th through 22nd. And then you have Dylan Berryman, a defensive lineman who's already scheduled to officially visit June 13th through 15th out of Monroe, Ouachita Parish. By the way, Ouachita Parish has a freshman basketball player. If you're a basketball dude, to remember, Karl Malone's grandson is a 6'3" point guard combo guard in Ouachita Parish, averaging 24, 25 a game as a freshman in high school basketball up there. By the way, so back to D-line recruiting. Then there's Bryce Perry Wright out of Buford, kind of that 5 tech, maybe grows into a 3 tech. He is going to officially visit June 13th through 15th, Georgia, the competition there. So this is Tico Crittenden. We believe Valden Sohn, the D lineman from Sweden that's at Blue Ridge School in Dayton, Virginia, will make an official visit as well. I think we're going to see a couple of others. Vodney Cleveland from Birmingham Parker, probably Emmanuel Ruffin from Bessemer City, Bessemer, Alabama, hometown of Bo Jackson, I believe. And then there's Kendall Gerville out of Fort Myers. I think Jamion Winfield, Kendall Gerville, really, really high on the list. Gerville out of Fort Myers, Kenny Baker went to see. I think he will likely officially visit as well. But we're also going to have some spring unofficials before these official visits for the kids that haven't been to campus before. I think Crittenden will probably be on campus in the spring. The corner, Samari Matthews from Huff, who locked in his June through 13th through 15th official visit yesterday, told me he will be here in the spring as well. Will that be March 29th? Will that be April 12th? It'll likely be one of those days for him. But this is Tico Crittenden, D-line recruiting, picking up here as these guys are scheduling their official visits. This is a guy Texas really likes as an over-the-ball player.
Good stuff. All right, we got time for a few more questions, fellas, before we get out of here. And
Jerry, just Blake, before you do that, just real quick, I think it's important to reinforce. You've been doing this long enough in the Southeast, Jerry. People always want to know, why does the SEC produce so many draft picks? Why does the SEC get all hype? You want to know why? It's the ultimate line of scrimmage league in college football. And why is that? Because you don't find those body types that you find in the Southeast anywhere else in the country.
Not are that are big and athletic, and that many of those guys, and that's the thing. Like last year, the state of Georgia, and I said this last year during that cycle, in the 25 cycle. I haven't looked up the final numbers. It was 24 at one point. I think it ended up being 26 or 27 Power 4 signees on the D line from the state. In their D line, not edge, D line out of one state, around 25, 26, 27. Power 4 defensive line signees out of one state. That's a wild number.
Yeah.
And that's in the Southeast, Georgia, Florida. That's where you're at. And up in the North Carolina, it's why we've talked about Texas recruiting North Carolina more, especially with Chad Scott. Their per capita hit rate on D linemen as NFL draft picks is the highest of anybody. So you have North Carolina, you have South Carolina. When they produce one, they're normally really, really good. Then you have Georgia, and you have Florida. Alabama has a high hit rate because those kids are so physical in that state. And Mississippi. And Mississippi's changed because those kids don't have to go to JUCO. They don't get placed in JUCOs as much anymore. Yeah. So really tough public school system, but SAT, ACT, no longer part of that. So those guys they're getting qualified. Some of those kids just go rough schools there, man. I mean, bad school. I mean, as far as and now they don't have to go, as many of those kids have to go to JUCO. So you're seeing more of those kids go straight Power 4 out of high school than Louisiana. Their per capita rate's really high. But Georgia was unbelievably loaded with D linemen. It was unbelievably loaded. It's just nothing I've seen before. This year in Georgia, it's linebackers. Linebackers and edge is where they're just off the charts this year.
All right. Kyle says, and we've had a few people ask this, do you know where we can watch the baseball games this weekend? Unfortunately, it's time to buy another subscription. D1baseball.com will be the only ones carrying that. It's not on ESPN Plus, SEC Network, none of that stuff. So if you want to watch, D1baseball.com. And our final question of the day from Brendan. Do you feel confident with either Kobe Black or Cade Phillips, maybe even Wardell Mack as a boundary corner? Or do we get an older option in the spring portal?
Jeff, I think the how these guys play and mesh with Orfe is going to determine that question. I think until this plays out this spring, the last part of that with the portal windows to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
The key there is, does Texas have enough speed at corner next year? That's going to be the real key.
I think especially as Texas gets away from being so locked into being a field and boundary defense, and your corner, you may have one guy that plays a disproportionate number of snaps to the field compared to the boundary, but Manny Muhammad can play either. I think you'll see, especially with man coverage now, I think being even more of a priority in recruiting, I think you'll see Texas gradually get away from maybe looking at a guy that fits that boundary corner role or they feel can be a field corner. They're just going to recruit corners that can run and can cover guys in man coverage. I think it goes back to the Bill Belichick, Nick Saban principles, Jerry, of playing defensive back. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to be really good in man-to-man coverage and play the ball in the deepest part of the field. If you want to play DB for Nick Saban, you got to do those three things. I think that's what Sark and the staff are looking for now.
I want to answer a couple of questions real quick, Blake, as recruiting follow-ups. You don't have to pull them up. I'll just answer them. Somebody asked about how many D linemen Texas wants in the 26th class. It'll be 3 or 4. Somebody asked about Jordan Clay, the receiver out of San Antonio Madison. Really good player, just not a guy Texas is scheduled for an official visit. At this point, they have 6 receivers scheduled for official visits. still trying to work on getting Tristan Keys to campus this spring. If they can make that happen, then an official visit at some point. So right now, I think those are pretty much your 7 guys. Not out of the question they'll add another official visitor in there, or if somebody impresses this spring during the spring evaluation period. Isaiah Stewart asked about Jet Washington out of Las Vegas. Look, Texas is going to try on Jet Washington. I don't think there's any doubt the 6'5", 200-pound safety. He's also a really good basketball player out of Bishop Gorman. Johnny Nansen was by the school in January. Texas is going to try. It won't shock me if Jet Washington's not on campus this spring or summer.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by the good folks at BKCW. Want to thank them, along with Ridge Wallet, Gooder, and Factor, all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com to further the discussion. Great community building right over there right now. If you're not a member, you can become one very easily. Use promo code OTFOG. You'll get a full year for $49.95. Again, that's ontexasfootball.com using promo code OTFOG and get that annual subscription for less than $50. What do you got?
Ryan Nelson, he lives in Georgia. He looked it up. I knew it got big. 32 Power 4 signees on the D-line, not edge, D-line in the state of Georgia in the 25 class. That is an unbelievable number. Unbelievable.
Hey, Blake, I got one more real quick for everybody that wants to go to d1baseball.com and watch those baseball games this weekend. Actually, Texas sent this over. You can get $10 off. It's $20 to sign up, but you get $10 off. TEX25. Text 25 is going to be the promo code, TEX25. You get $10 off of that sign-up fee at d1baseball.com to watch the baseball team this weekend.
There you go.
By the way, we had so much on the show, we didn't talk about it. Congrats to Rory Harmon on the half-court shot at the end of the third quarter last night.
That was phenomenal. Good stuff for sure. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be. Between that and ontexasfootball.com, we got you covered around the clock. We'll be back on Monday morning. So have a great weekend. And for Jeff Howe and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.